A breakthrough in the case is Suzanne Morphew's husband, Barry, is charged with her murder for a second time. It is a top story that the entire country has been following. A grand jury now indicting Barry Morphew, charging him with first-degree murder. He was taken into custody today in Gilbert, Arizona, a suburb of Phoenix.
Here's the moment he waived his rights to hearings in Arizona and agreed to return to Colorado.
You posted. Based on that information, do you know what option you would like to do here today, sir?
I'd like to waive.
You'd like to waive your rights here today and go ahead and say you're ready for Colorado to pick you up? Okay.
I don't have anything to worry about. I've done nothing wrong.
I got nightmares in my head, I fear. Thoughts build up until I can't feel. My mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper. I got nightmares in my head, I fear.
Barry Morphew was taken into custody in Maricopa County, Arizona on Friday. Incidentally, that's the same county that tried the Jodi Arias case. Morphew's bond was set at $3 million, cash only. Currently, it looks like he can't make that, and so extradition in custody is going ahead to Alamosa County, Colorado. Now, do you remember I was questioning whether Iris Ayton would continue representing Barry? Well, it appears he has a new attorney. Before we get to that, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. I will be following up with this analysis later today, sharing my impressions on the ground of the Morphew case. We'll also be looking at the financial narrative in terms of the Titan submersible disaster, so look out for that. If you're finding this analysis worthwhile, please do hit the thanks button, and let's get started. So who is representing Barry Morphew? According to the Stanford Advocate, quote, Barry Morphew has maintained his innocence since his wife disappeared, and his new attorney, David Bella, has blasted the new indictment. Yet again, the government allows their predetermined conclusion to lead their search for evidence. That's what Bella said in a statement. But Barry maintains his innocence. The case has not changed, and the outcome will not either. Confident words. So Barry has changed his representation. Iris Ayton has commented on the case. We'll deal with that in a moment. Glossing over his new criminal defense attorney's portfolio, Bella has a decent reputation as a leading Colorado litigator, but I believe he's nowhere near as expensive as Ayton, who was a very big gun in Barry's legal armory. Look at this. Best criminal defense lawyer, People's Choice, David Bella from Recht Cornfield. David Bella's specialty is criminal defense. He often works with clients who are involved with state or federal criminal investigations. He's previously served as a public defender. Now, Iris Ayton, who was Morphew's attorney in 2021, no longer represents him. She said the prosecutors fumbled the case. Not only is he a loving father, but he was a loving husband. It's interesting how she puts loving father first. That's what Iris Ayton told the Associated Press on Friday, immediately following Barry's arrest. Now, Barry moving to Arizona as well as going for less expensive legal counsel tells us Barry's fortunes may have changed quite significantly since 2023 when he was first arrested and charged. Remember, through Iris Ayton, he even launched a massive lawsuit, a $15 million lawsuit for malicious prosecution against a laundry list of cops and agents who were involved in his murder investigation, including Chaffee County DA Linda Stanley. That suit was dismissed in September last year. Stanley was also disbarred in November last year. Barry Morphew has proved to be a slippery character to convict, hasn't he? Even to get to trial. According to Denver 7, in April of 2022, a judge granted a request by the prosecution to dismiss the case less than 2 weeks before his trial was set to begin in Fremont County. The case was dismissed without prejudice, meaning Barry Morphew could be tried again if charges were refiled. And that's where we are now, the with prejudice part. According to Denver 7, prosecutors said at the time that a ruling by the judge was a Judge Lama, that they could not call their most expert witness at trial due to discovery violations meant Suzanne's body needed to be found in order to prove the case. They said they believed her body was in a hard-to-reach mountainous area that was covered in snow at the time. And many of us thought, well, as soon as the snow melts, they'll simply, they'll be able to find her body. It seemed as though her body would be discovered within days or weeks of that statement. Instead, months and then years went by. Remember that. It does make one wonder, was her body in this hard-to-reach mountain area after all? And if she was her body subsequently moved? Or was this simply a legal maneuver that, let's face it, failed? In this analysis, I want to deal with an interesting, if fairly overlooked aspect when it comes to the legal arms race, resources. Because often, certainly in the American justice system as it is today, money maketh a case, and money winneth a case. And one could argue during the first round, Barry's money, much of it actually inherited from his dead wife's estate, as well as from liquidating their properties, won the opening skirmish. The question is, during round 2, what sort of chess does the skinny state of Alamosa have at its disposal? Big enough to take on its highest profile case yet?
And now we're learning about some new evidence that investigators will use to try and connect Barry Morphew to that murder. Investigators are focusing on a very powerful prescription animal tranquilizer known as BAM.
So we know that Suzanne's body was found in a shallow grave in Saguache County Field during an unrelated investigation 17 months after Morphew's case was dismissed in September of 2023. It was really blind luck that they found Suzanne's body. They weren't really looking for it, they were actually investigating something else. Now, if you've paid attention to the references made just in this video, references to the word county, we've referred to Maricopa County, that's in Arizona, but that's not the jurisdiction that will hear this case. We've seen Suzanne's remains were found in Saguache County, but interestingly, that's also not the county with legal jurisdiction either. Neither is Fremont County, the county with the original jurisdiction, the county where Barry's case was initially dismissed. It's also not being heard in Chaffee County, the county of the then DA who brought the case to trial, Linda Stanley. Instead, the jurisdiction handling this case is Alamosa.
An autopsy report shows the substance was in Suzanne's system when she died, but here's the key. The indictment says, quote, ultimately, the prescription records show that when Suzanne Morphew disappeared, only one private citizen living in that entire area of the state had access to BAM. Barry Morphew.
So it was in and around the town of Morphew, and that raises an important question that I want to address. And so the remains of Suzanne Morphew were found in Saguache County, and that's obviously a county in my jurisdiction.
So there is something very interesting happening here procedurally. Bear in mind, Moffat County has got nothing to do with Moffat, the town less than a mile from where Suzanne's remains were found. I've driven through that town, and I've also driven to that exact site. The county with jurisdiction matters for a number of reasons, but a major reason is resources. Bigger counties like El Paso, Denver, Weld County dealt with the Chris Watts case, Boulder, the John Benet Ramsey case. These are wealthy counties. They have larger populations, which means a lot of taxpayers. Alamosa in the beautiful windswept San Luis Valley is vast, but also relatively empty. The name Alamosa, by the way, is Spanish for a grove of cottonwood trees. The population of Alamosa County is barely 16,000, which is around 23 people per square mile. The Alamosa County Sheriff's Office has just 39 employees. But the key metric we want to look at here is economics. Saguache is one of the poorest counties in Colorado. That's a neighboring county, and also has, interestingly, a relatively high death rate. You may remember when human remains were initially found, early reactions were to dismiss the whole area as a dumping ground for dead bodies, including drug addicts. People, before they'd identified the human remains, they said, well, it could be anybody. Of Colorado's 64 counties, Alamosa is in the bottom 10 poorest per capita counties. Ironically, Maricopa, where Morphew has been residing, is the wealthiest county in Arizona. This matters because, as we saw recently in New Mexico, the not terribly well-funded Santa Fe justice system remember, didn't do terribly well handling the Rust saga, especially when Alec Baldwin rolled in with his blockbuster and really expensive legal counsel from New York. And we saw what happened there. The case collapsed in an embarrassing spectacle. Could that happen here for a second time? Well, I suspect part of the delay in bringing this case to trial was cobbling together a budget to actually hold a high-profile trial, and it'll be held here. I can't help wondering, if it was a hunter who hunted and killed Suzanne using the tools of a hunter, wasn't there also a strategic element in where her remains were left?
Detectives say her bones were bleached and her body moved.
Was there an effort to commit the perfect murder here by also choosing to hide evidence in the perfect state? Think about how hunters also choose the terrain. The location is very important in terms of hunting strategy. Also think about this idea of camouflaging the remains in an area where there would be other human remains if they were ever discovered. What was the idea that the state wouldn't have the means to prosecute even if they were found? Was that a strategy all along? Interestingly, the attractive 12th Judicial District Attorney Ann Kelly brought this up briefly during her recent press conference. In a briefing that was otherwise very thin on substance, one thing Kelly was quite clear on was financial support for this trial.
And so the remains of Suzanne Morphew were found in Saguache County. And that's obviously a county in my jurisdiction. And so jurisdiction in this county is appropriate. I can tell you that I have reached out to and contacted my friend and colleague, elected District Attorney Jeff Lindsay, who currently covers Chaffee County. He is in full support of our efforts to prosecute this case here and has committed to providing any resources that we need to prosecute this case.
So there you have it in a nutshell. It looks like other counties will be providing support and possibly even financial support to this particular county. I'm not going to take it further than that. Do look out for my next video where I'll be dealing with my impressions when I was on the ground, moving through and investigating the fabric of this case. Thank you for listening. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I'll see you guys next time.